In the golden heat of an African morning, where red dust floated gently above the ground and the chatter of schoolchildren echoed like distant drumbeats, a lonely figure walked along the narrow path leading to Kiwala Primary. Her steps were soft, timid, almost apologetic, each one crunching against the dirt, as though she hoped no one would notice she existed. Over her face hung a rough, uneven carton mask tied with old string, the edges worn and stained from many months of fear and tears. Some children pointed at her, laughing in cruel excitement, while others simply stared, unsure whether to mock her or pity her. But Amina kept walking, eyes fixed on the ground, heart pounding beneath her faded school uniform. She didn't wear the carton to be strange or mysterious. She wore it to protect herself from the world that decided long ago she was too ugly to be seen. For years she believed her birthmark was a curse, a sign that she didn't belong among the other children, and every insult she heard only carved that belief deeper into her spirit. Yet today, something felt different, like fate had begun to whisper her name, urging her toward a path she never imagined. Inside the village, life moved with the rhythm of tradition. Women pounding cassava, men repairing fishing nets, elders sitting beneath the great baobab tree sharing stories of ancestors. No one knew the secret brilliance hidden behind the girl wearing the carton. Amina was more than the insults she had been fed. She was a quiet storm of ideas, sketches, dreams, none of which she dared to show. Each morning, she slipped on the mask not to hide her face, but to hide her pain. And though the world around her seemed loud, colorful, and full of life, Amina felt invisible, fading a little more with every passing day. But destiny has a way of finding even those who hide. And soon the same girl everyone mocked would become the one person the entire village and beyond could no longer ignore. Amina walked the dusty path to school as she did every morning, slow, careful, and hidden behind the same battered carton mask she had worn for nearly a year. The villagers had grown used to seeing the strange figure with the crooked cardboard face, though the children never missed a chance to giggle or whisper when she passed. The sun cast long shadows across her path, and with each step her heart tightened like a wound being touched again. She held her school books close to her chest, pretending not to notice the snickers from a group of boys at the corner of the road. But she noticed. She always noticed. It was impossible not to when every whisper cut through her like a blade. The mask had become her shield, her silent companion, the only thing standing between her and a world that had decided she wasn't too worthy of being seen. Underneath, it was her face, soft, innocent, but marked by a large birthmark that covered half her cheek and stretched down her neck. Adults called it unfortunate. Children called it ugly. Amina called it the reason she couldn't look anyone in the eyes. When she finally reached the school gate, she paused, took in a shaky breath, and stepped into the courtyard. As always, conversations paused, heads turned, and then the laughter began, quick, sharp, and familiar. Amina lowered her head and walked straight to her classroom, pretending their words couldn't reach her. But deep down, she wondered how long a person could survive behind a carton. How long before even the mask didn't feel safe anymore? She didn't know. All she knew was that today felt heavier than usual, as if something was waiting for her, something she wasn't ready to face. Amina always took the seat at the very back of the classroom, right beside the window, where she could escape into her thoughts whenever the world grew loud. Behind her mask, her eyes were bright and curious, absorbing every lesson with a hunger no one else noticed. She rarely spoke. When teachers asked questions, her hand remained still, not because she didn't know the answers, but because she didn't want attention. She had learned that attention always came with consequences. But when the final bell rang each day and the other students rushed home, Amina stayed behind. She would slide her worn notebook from her bag, its pages filled with sketches of strange shapes, circles, arrows, measurements she had copied from old textbooks. Her drawings weren't doodles. They were ideas, inventions, solutions to problems she saw in the village. She dreamed of making life easier for her people, cleaner water, safer cooking stoves, better storage for food, but she kept these dreams hidden, afraid someone would laugh at them the way they laughed at her. Mr. Cato, her science teacher, began to notice Amina's routine. He didn't approach her directly, fearful of embarrassing her, but he watched from a distance as she sketched things far beyond the understanding of most students her age. That girl, he murmured to himself one afternoon, is hiding more than a face. One day, as she packed her bag, a piece of paper slipped from her notebook. Mr. Cato picked it up before she noticed. On it was a detailed diagram of a water filtration design, well-structured, impressive, brilliant. He stared at it in disbelief. This wasn't a child's drawing. This was a mind waiting to bloom. And he knew then that Amina was not just a girl hiding behind a carton. She was a genius waiting for the world to see her. The next morning, Amina walked to school with her usual quiet determination, unaware that trouble was waiting for her just ahead. As she turned the corner near the mango tree, 3 older students, boys known for their mischief, stepped into her path. Their leader, Musa, smirked as he circled around her. "Look, the walking carton is here," he said loudly, making sure everyone nearby could hear. Amina swallowed hard and kept her eyes on the ground. If she didn't respond, they would get bored, she told herself. But Musa had other plans. He grabbed the edge of her carton mask and tugged sharply. Amina's breath caught. She clung to the carton with trembling fingers. "Leave me alone," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "What did you say?" Musa mocked. "Speak louder, carton girl." Before she could react, another boy snatched her school bag, dumping everything onto the dusty ground. Her pencil scattered, her notebook opened, pages fluttering. The boys howled with laughter. Amina lunged forward to grab her book, terrified they might tear it, but Musa pushed her away. She stumbled, falling to her knees. The other students watched from a distance. Some found it funny. Others looked uncomfortable, but remained silent. No one stepped in. Amina's heart pounded as Musa reached for her mask again. This time, with one swift jerk, he ripped it off completely. Gasps erupted. Amina froze, exposed, vulnerable, her birthmark visible in the bright sunlight. The boys stared, then burst into cruel laughter. "I knew it," Musa shouted. "That's why she hides. She's even uglier than we thought." Tears burned her eyes. She snatched the mask from the ground and ran past the schoolyard, past the whispers, past the stairs, until she reached home. She collapsed into her mother's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. That day, she didn't just lose a mask. She lost the last piece of safety she thought she had. Amina's home was small but warm, its walls filled with love even when life outside felt harsh. Her mother, Mariam, held her gently, rocking her as if she were still a little child trembling from a nightmare. "My sweet girl," she whispered, wiping the tears from Amina's cheeks. "They hurt you again, didn't they?" Amina sobbed harder, unable to form words. Mariam kissed the top of her head, her heart aching for the daughter who had suffered far more than she ever deserved. When Amina finally found her voice, it came out cracked and broken. "Mama, why did God make me like this? Why can't I look like the other girls?" Mariam took her daughter's face in her hands with tenderness. "Listen to me, Amina. Your birthmark is not a curse. It is not something to be ashamed of." Amina shook her head. "But they laugh at me. They call me ugly." Mariam's eyes softened with sadness. "Not everything people say is true. Sometimes they mock what they do not understand. Sometimes they fear what is different. But none of their words define you." She stood up, walked to the shelf, and brought out an old wooden box filled with small items, her past, her memories. She pulled out a faded photograph of Amina's grandmother. "She had the same birthmark," Mariam said, "and she was the bravest woman I ever knew." Amina stared at the photograph quietly. Her grandmother's face looked strong, dignified, beautiful in its own way. She never hid, Mariam continued. She worked, she loved, and people respected her for her courage. Amina touched her own cheek slowly. But I'm not brave like her, she whispered. Mariam lifted her chin gently. Not yet. Bravery isn't something you are born with. It is something you choose. That night, Amina lay in bed, staring at her mask beside her pillow. For the first time, she wondered if she could ever choose courage over fear. A week passed, and Amina returned to school wearing her repaired Carton mask. It was taped together unevenly, but she didn't care. She wasn't ready to face the world without it. Most students avoided her that morning, either out of guilt or discomfort. But Musa and his gang still smirked whenever she walked by. During assembly, the headmaster stepped forward with excitement glowing in his eyes. Students, he began, I have important news. This year, our district will hold a grand innovation fair. All schools are invited to compete. The winner will receive a full scholarship and a trip to the capital city. Gasps and whispers spread through the crowd. An opportunity like this was rare in their village. Participants, the headmaster continued, must design an invention that solves a real problem faced by our community. Amina's heart skipped. She immediately thought of her drawings, especially her water filter design inspired by the muddy wells many villagers relied on. She hugged her notebook tightly. For a brief moment, a spark of hope flickered inside her. But as students began chattering excitedly, Amina's spark dimmed. She imagined standing on a stage with everyone watching her. She imagined whispers, laughter, cruel eyes judging her face instead of her idea. The thought made her stomach twist painfully. Later, in class, Mr. Cato approached her as she packed her bag. He lowered his voice. Amina, I saw your filtration design. It's brilliant. You should enter the competition. She froze. No, sir, I can't. Yes, you can, he insisted gently. You have the potential to win, but they will laugh at me, she whispered. Mr. Cato sighed. Sometimes, the greatest inventions come from those who have suffered the most. Pain teaches us to see problems others ignore. He paused. You don't have to decide today. But think about this, if you hide forever, the world will lose a gift it desperately needs. That night, Amina stared at her drawings again, feeling her heart pull in two different directions. Fear on one side, possibility on the other. The village health center buzzed with activity on the day the medical volunteers arrived from the city. People lined up under the trees, waiting for free checkups. Amina had no intention of going. She disliked crowds, but her mother insisted. Just a quick visit, Mariam said. We need to make sure you're healthy. When they reached the clinic, a woman in a white coat approached them with a warm smile. Hello, I'm Dr. Nia, she said. Amina lowered her head, thankful her mask hid her face. But Dr. Nia gently placed a hand on her shoulder. You don't have to hide from me, she said softly. Amina froze. Her mother nodded encouragingly. Hesitantly, Amina removed the mask. Dr. Nia studied her birthmark carefully, not with judgment, but with interest and compassion. This is a vascular birthmark, she explained. Completely harmless. Amina's eyes widened. No one had ever explained it to her before. Can it be removed? She asked quietly. It can be treated, Dr. Nia said. But treatment is a choice, not a necessity. She looked directly into Amina's eyes. What matters more is how you see yourself. Your face is not the problem. The fear you carry is what hurts you. Amina swallowed hard. The words pierced her deeply. She had always believed her face was the enemy. But what if the enemy had been her fear all along? Dr. Nia continued. People will always talk, whether you hide or not. But when you stop hiding, you take away their power. For the first time, Amina felt something shift inside her like a door opening, a breath she had never allowed herself to take. As they walked home, she held the Carton mask loosely in her hands, unsure for the first time if she truly needed it anymore. The morning of the innovation fair arrived like a storm inside Amina's chest. She woke before sunrise, staring at the Carton mask on her table. Her fingers traced the edges, the scratches, the stains, the memories of every cruel word that had pushed her behind it. She picked it up slowly, then set it down. Today, she whispered to herself, I will not hide. Her mother watched with quiet pride as Amina stepped outside bare-faced for the first time in years. The village children playing outside froze, their eyes widening. Some whispered, some pointed. But Amina kept walking, each step both terrifying and liberating. When she reached the schoolyard, silence rippled through the crowd. Students turned, some gasped. Musa smirked, but even he seemed unsure of what to say. Amina's cheeks burned with embarrassment, but she lifted her chin, remembering Dr. Nia's words. She walked straight past the stairs, refusing to shrink. Mr. Cato met her at the door with a beaming smile. You look brave today, he said. Let's show them what your mind can do. Her hands trembled as she set up her project, a small model of her water filtration system. But as she adjusted the final piece, something incredible happened. Younger students began to gather around, curious rather than mocking. What is this? One girl asked. Amina hesitated, then explained her invention softly. The girl's eyes widened in admiration. That's amazing. For the first time, disbelief replaced fear inside Amina. They weren't laughing. They were listening. At that moment, she understood something powerful. Courage didn't just silence the world. It gave her the strength to face it. The judges arrived shortly after noon, walking from project to project with notebooks in hand. Nervous energy buzzed in the air as students waited anxiously for their turn. When the judges reached Amina's table, she inhaled deeply, a breath that felt like a leap off a cliff. Tell us about your invention, one judge said. Amina began slowly, her voice trembling. But as she explained the problems her village faced with contaminated water, she found her strength growing. She showed how her filtration system used clay, charcoal, and natural fibers, materials everyone in her community already had access to. She demonstrated how the water flowed through the layers, coming out cleaner on the other end. The judges leaned in, impressed. One of them asked detailed questions: how long the filters lasted, how they could be replaced, how much the materials cost. Amina answered each one with confidence, surprising even herself. Students began gathering around again, whispering in awe. Even Musa stood in the back, frowning, not out of amusement, but confusion. This was not the girl he had mocked. This was someone entirely different. When Amina finished her presentation, the judges exchanged glances. One of them smiled. This is exceptional work, he said. Practical, affordable, and impactful. You've created something that could truly help your community. Amina blinked in disbelief. Exceptional? Her? She stepped back, heart pounding, unsure whether to cry or smile. After all the presentations, the judges gathered to announce the results. Students crowded the courtyard, buzzing with anticipation. Amina stood quietly at the edge. And the winner, the head judge declared, of this year's Innovation Fair is Amina Kamari. Her name echoed across the courtyard. Students erupted into applause. Mr. Cato pumped his fist proudly. Her mother cried from the crowd. And for the first time in her life, Amina felt seen, not for her mask, not for her face, but for her brilliance. Amina's victory spread through Kiwala village like wildfire. People who once whispered about her now spoke her name with admiration. Mothers pointed her out to their children. Elders praised her intelligence. Even the shopkeepers smiled warmly when she passed by. Her filtration model was displayed in the school hallway, and students stopped to study it every day. Younger girls approached her shyly, asking if she could teach them how to sketch inventions. Amina, to her own surprise, agreed. One afternoon, Musa approached her awkwardly near the water pump. She stiffened, expecting another insult. But Musa looked uncomfortable. Congratulations, he muttered. She blinked. He continued, "Look, about what happened before, I was stupid. I'm sorry." Amina didn't know what to say. Forgiveness wasn't easy, but the apology lifted a weight she didn't know she was carrying. "Thank you," she said simply. The village chief invited her to speak at a community gathering about her invention. She stood before dozens of people, nervous at first, but as she explained her design, her voice grew steadier. People listened. They respected her. They believed in her. As days passed, Amina realized something profound. Nothing about her face had changed. The birthmark was still there. But her courage had transformed the way the world saw her and the way she saw herself. One evening, as she walked home with her mother, a group of children ran by wearing carton masks, pretending to be inventors like Amina. She laughed not in mockery, but in joy. The mask that once imprisoned her had become a symbol of how far she had come. Her mother hugged her gently. "You see, I told you. The world only needed to see your heart." The day Amina left for the capital city was one she would remember forever. The entire village gathered to send her off, cheering, clapping, and offering blessings. She boarded the bus with a backpack filled with her notebooks and a heart full of dreams. As the bus rumbled down the road, she looked back at her village, the place where she had once hidden behind a carton, and the place where she discovered her strength. In the capital, everything felt bigger, tall buildings, busy streets, noise that never seemed to stop. But Amina didn't shrink. She walked confidently into the Innovation Center, where she would present her invention to engineers, scientists, and government officials. Her presentation captivated them. They asked for prototypes, partnerships, even training workshops for rural communities. Letters of support came pouring in. Amina realized her invention could change not only her village, but many others across the country. During a lunch break, she sat alone at a table overlooking the city skyline. She reached into her bag and pulled out the old carton mask she had packed, folded, faded, fragile. She held it gently, remembering all the fear, shame, and pain it carried. Then she smiled softly and placed it on the table. "I don't need you anymore," she whispered. A breeze swept across the rooftop, lifting the mask slightly, as if acknowledging her goodbye. Amina walked back inside with her head high. She was no longer the girl who hid. She was a creator, a problem solver, a young woman with a future wide open before her. And as she stepped into the next chapter of her life, one truth echoed in her heart. Being different wasn't her weakness. It had always been her greatest strength. As the sun lowered behind the distant hills and painted the sky in shades of gold and deep orange, Amina stood quietly at the edge of the bustling city center, watching the world move with a confidence she had never imagined herself possessing. Cars rushed past. People hurried along sidewalks, and towering buildings glowed like beacons of opportunity. Yet in all the noise and movement, she felt an unshakable calm, a calm born not from hiding, but from finally being seen. She thought back to the dusty village path where she once walked with her head lowered and a carton mask pressed against her face. She remembered the laughter that used to echo behind her, the sting of cruel words, the lonely walks home. But now those memories no longer broke her. They shaped her. They strengthened her. They reminded her of the journey she had survived. Clutching her notebook to her chest, she breathed in deeply and felt pride swell inside her. Not because she had won a competition or gained recognition, but because she had discovered the courage that had been trapped inside her all along. She realized that the world had not changed magically. It was her who had changed. She had chosen to step into the light, and the world had simply followed. As she turned to walk toward her next meeting, confident footsteps echoing against the pavement, her heart carried a message that would stay with her forever. No mask, no insult, no cruel voice could ever define her again. Her worth was not written on her skin. It lived in her mind, her heart, her dreams. And as the final glow of daylight wrapped around her, Amina smiled, knowing her story was only beginning. Because sometimes, the moment you stop hiding is the moment the world finally sees who you truly are.